Good morning, my name's Colin Taylor. I'm Director of Engineering Services for Scottish Power's Energy Network business. So we are we are the transmission owner in central and southern Scotland, the distribution network operator in central and southern Scotland, and the distribution network operator for Merseyside and North Wales. I'm going to talk today about more about the distribution issues than the transmission issues. If some questions around some of the transmission issues in our area, happy to take them at the end. But one of my responsibilities is on smart grids, future network technologies. So I'm going to talk about some of the things that are happening there. So just again, very quickly, who are we? So we're part of Scottish Power, part of the Iberdrola Group, but completely separate from the generation and retail interests of the Scottish Power Group. So any views I express today are entirely from the perspective of a network operator. So again, 3.5 million customers, significant amount of renewable resources. If you look at our two areas, I reckon we've got in excess of 3.5 gigawatts of renewables connected, both at transmission and at distribution. We have quite a high proportion connected to our distribution system at various voltages at 132,000 volts and below in Merseyside and North Wales, and at 33,000 volts and below in Scotland. So looking at some of the issues, if you were to, so this is looking at our 11,000 volt network, principally overhead lines in rural areas. The vast, the largest part of our area is rural in central and southern Scotland. And if you were to take a snapshot at any one time, if you're looking to connect a material amount of generation, then this is what you would see. Both red, amber, and green. Still capacity available, but areas where capacity is very restricted, and that can be for two reasons: either because the capacity that's been there has already been used, so their generation is connected, but also because if you look at the history of our system, some of these 11 kV circuits are very sparse and in remote areas, very light construction, never designed to accommodate generation. Long distances from major substations, and there's actually not very much demand. So it's quite challenging to connect distribution. But still, there is still capacity available, and I think key challenges for us both on distribution and transmission area is to where there is capacity is to use innovation, so new technologies and also innovative commercial approaches to get the most out of the capacity that's available, and where justified, where economically justified, make investment to increase capacity. And there is a lot of investment both in Scotland and in ManWeb to increase capacity for generation, but there's also a lot we're doing to get the most out of the existing network. Moving on to this next slide, or next part, looking at transmission, you'll see, and Julian talked about some of the issues where it's transmission factors that are perhaps limiting generation of 100 kilowatts or more that can connect to our distribution system. There's probably again a couple of issues. One is just simply that the interface between the transmission and the distribution system, grid supply point, that capacity has been exceeded. Sometimes as an investment solution that we can do, you can change transformers and things, and it's economic. And in other cases, we're working very closely with National Grid to try and manage the flows at that boundary. And again, as Julian said, in other cases, there may be physical capacity today, but it's allocated, and there's a queue, and there's a lot of generation in the background waiting to connect or in the process of connecting. So two factors affecting what we would transmission issues. So looking at smart grids, there's a few words that you'll hear from most people talking about smart grids. It's about visibility, about flexibility, about optimization. So knowing in real time what's happening in our network, being able to actions to happen automatically or with intervention by a control engineer. Or something. Generation being generation connected to the distribution system, providing a lot of different services. Demand offering services as well. So demand side response. And this slide shows a future scenario, but in reality, a lot of this is happening at the moment. That there is much more flexibility, a lot more coordination between the distribution network operators and the transmission system operator. There are areas where demand is providing response. There are more areas of opportunity with electric vehicles and other things to provide that flexibility. One area that we're very keen on in Scotland is working more closely with the system operator, so the transmission system operator, so as acting more of it as well as running the distribution network assets, actually managing the flows and interacting directly with the transmission system operator, so that the TSO is not interacting directly with the many generators that are connected to the distribution system. We're interacting with them, sending them commercial signals, and the TSO is dealing with us. So again, some words. Again, some of the key things. It's not just about technical innovation; it's about commercial innovation, about flexibility, about controlling flows, and being able. If you're a generator seeking to connect to the distribution system, then it may be that you can't operate all of the time, but by being by using some of the commercial and technical innovations, we can actually give you a much better idea as to how often you can run and how often you might be constrained off, and how we're going to manage those flows, and that can that can allow more generation to connect and allow us to get much more out of our system. So looking in practice, active network management, what we are actually doing. We have a project in central Scotland. It's called the ARC project, Accelerating Renewable Connections. That's a £7 or £8 million project funded by Ofgem's Innovation Stimulus, which is looking at new commercial arrangements, but also other technology approaches to get the most out of our network in an area where there is a lot of distributed generation seeking to connect. And there are constraints, and that's been fairly successful, and we're actually rolling that out as business as usual in areas where it's appropriate. Again, there are, unfortunately, there are areas of our network where capacity is very sparse, and you just can't get. The only way to get more capacity is to build a lot of new assets. That does take time, and there's some planning consent challenges around that. But this active network management or ARC project is in areas where there is capacity, and it's about getting more out. And this is another project that we're doing, focusing on transmission. Again, it's about getting a much better idea of what's happening in our system. This is our Visor project. We're working with National Grid and Scottish Hydroelectric's transmission businesses, again using state-of-the-art monitoring, state-of-the-art equipment to give us a detailed view of what's happening at key points on our transmission system, allowing us to get much more out of it, rather than modelling assumptions, actually knowing what's happening in real time, as well as helping us, get more exports out of Scotland. It will also help us in some of the import scenarios that Julian was talking about. Scotland is importing on quite large, quite frequently at the moment, has been for the last couple of years, and there are, certainly in the short term, there's a number of challenges that present. So just I think we'll come on to some questions at the end. So really getting as much information about what's on our network, being more flexible, working better coordination between the transmission system operator and us as a DNO, as a distribution system operator. Those are a number of the things that we're doing, that there is still more work to be done in those areas, and I think the industry is taking things forward. I think certainly one of the challenges for us is sometimes just seeing the wood for the trees. There's so much activity, so many people actually seeking to connect, that it's actually very difficult sometimes to take a firm view as to what the background is. I think there probably will be some of the things that Julian talked about. There will be some more certainty around some of these things, and we can, because of some of the stuff that's happening this week, and we can hopefully take these take some of these ideas forward and make a real benefit and allow people to connect quicker and for lower cost. Okay.